only took me about 40 minutes to realize that my microphone was turned off this entire time. And I feel like that says a lot about what's been going on this week. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Second Year Run Podcast. I am your host, Wyatt Mason, and today I have a very special guest with me, and that guest is nobody. It's me. I'm the special guest. It's me, your host, Wyatt Mason. Today I'm interviewing myself. Well, it's not really much of an interview on myself. It's more so that we were so busy with school this week that I didn't have time to find someone to be on the podcast this week. I just didn't see anybody because we were all doing kind of different things, and I didn't want to ask somebody on the day I was recording to come in case they were busy. People have plans for the weekends, and I didn't want to put anybody under kind of pressure to come on the show so late and so noticed because I didn't even have any topics thought of. Usually when I have a guest on, I like to come up with a couple of things that I think we can talk about. I usually start with us talking about school, but I like to transition it into being something more creative and more inspirational, just because I find that to be more interesting than just our sort of normal school life. It's the main reason why I do listen to some podcasts, is to hear people's creative thoughts and opinions and try to find my own spins and ways of using them. That's what I want this podcast to be. So without any guest, I thought I would just quickly talk about school this week. We all were doing something called Bad Credit, which has gotten name dropped before on the show. It's really just kind of a short film, not like a typical student short film. It's more of just like a 3 to 4 minute little YouTube skit almost. But it was really fun to work with, as it was like a full production with all the stuff that we learned from our first year courses. This was basically just us doing that. The instructors gave us a script to start off with, and then each in our production groups, there was 4 groups, took the script and adapted it into being something else that we thought worked a little bit better for us and our senses and sensibilities, and made something out of it. And all the groups are done. I mentioned last week with Kiana that our group was the first to go, and I'm still really proud of that one. But then the 3 other groups were doing it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were their film days. I helped out with the rest of my production team. We were helping out another group on the Tuesday this week. So it was nice to kind of get it out of the way for me personally. Right at the front, I enjoyed that. That was nice. But it was also fun as I was able to do second HD stuff. So I was slating and helping change lenses and moving the camera around, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed directing a lot, but I really do love cameras. I've always been fascinated by them as a technology. Just as a kid, trying to figure out how a camera works is really confusing. It doesn't make much sense. And honestly, this program has given me a better understanding of cameras overall. I feel like I actually understand it now, and I really do enjoy just working with them. And it just makes sense to me. I don't know, not a lot of things do, but cameras, weirdly enough, are something that I just get, and it works. And I'm happy to continue to use them. So on the production, it was fun being second AC for that reason. And I kind of want to just do more of that. I just want to do more camera stuff. That's it. I think I mentioned it before, but that's really what I am, is a camera guy, and I enjoy it so much. So if you got any work for me, please let me know. I don't want to be doing podcasting forever. I got other ideas and ambitions in mind, so please. Now, I don't want to necessarily make this a movie review podcast, but I really the main reason why I'm also recording this by myself is that I can't find another person who watched Megapolis that didn't also watch it with me in the theaters. That's the main problem, because I was really busy with a lot of schoolwork this week, but also on the Wednesday I saw Megapolis with some friends from school, actually, and it was, oh my god, I'm sorry, I don't even know where to begin, because I feel like while I'm in this program, there's things that I'm learning and I'm understanding. And maybe I've already kind of, like, from whatever kind of YouTube video essays I've understood about filmmaking and whatnot. But then watching Megapolis is another story. It is completely, like, I really don't know where to begin. I don't. It's just, if anything, it inspires me because the bad credit production that we did last week, I think, was a better overall product than what Francis Ford Coppola took so long to create. Like, in all honesty, I do, because this movie just offers nothing to an audience member, like, at all. There's nothing to it. And the main reason is honestly the ending. When I talked with Addie a couple weeks ago about the ending of Looper and overall that movie, there's a lot that movie does really well that I enjoyed, that maybe as kind of a weird premise and decisive as it is with its creative choices, I think it's still a good product overall, if maybe flawed in certain ways based on how you want to tell a story. I understand that. Whatever, fine, it's fair enough. But this movie just doesn't have any of that. This movie is lacking so much in that regard, of any kind of just basic story structure, that I seriously can't recommend it, because as an audience, you're left with nothing. The whole movie is very Shakespearean, and I hate Shakespeare. There's certain ways that the characters speak and talk, and with someone who has read Shakespeare before, like legitimate, like, Old English Shakespeare, and then along with translated on the side, just from, like, normal high school and whatnot. But still, even reading that, you understand the references that he's trying to make with this movie. The weird Roman references. There's, like, the love interest name is Julia, which I kept on thinking was Juliet or something similar. It just sounded so close. Shakespeare made a play about Caesar, and the main character's name is Caesar. Like, it's so beaten over the head that it doesn't make me feel intelligent for recognizing the references. Like, it doesn't. It just makes me feel like I'm doing homework. Because just like doing homework, sure, I maybe know the answer. It's not going to... Okay, good. Now I know some literary references. That doesn't make the movie inherently good, or, like, I don't know. It just... Because the references don't mean anything when the story doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? The story is too disjointed and unconnected for it to be enjoyable. There's nothing that flows together from scene to scene that makes sense. At the beginning, it's actually not too bad. The beginning of the movie is really solid. It's really well done. And then there's a midpoint where you realize that it doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't. There's so much that gets brought up and then just dropped instantly that it doesn't matter. Like, nothing in this movie matters at all. Not a single thing. With every tiny little thing that you think you can feel, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what this movie is supposed to be, is that maybe if this is it's like a dig at, like, a smart movie. By having all these references and meanings and callbacks and whatever, it's supposed to make an audience member feel smart, quote unquote. And that's the point, is that it's supposed to be like a weird version of, like, The Big Lebowski, where it's like all these, like, plot threads and whatnot don't mean anything because the story just kind of resolves on its own, and the dude is just a character who exists in this world and has to have life, put upon him. Like, the dude doesn't go out and experience life. Life experiences the dude in a way with that movie. And you know what? I really love The Big Lebowski as that kind of a movie where nothing really matters and it's kind of a bit of a nothing plot, but it's all really fun and entertaining and, like, funny and has great acting, and there's really good character moments, and there's great set design, and there's, like, a drug trip out scene that is, like, done really well and is really crazy, and it's, like, this movie also does have things to say. Not Megapolis, but the Big Lebowski. I want to talk about a better movie, The Big Lebowski. That movie does have things to say, and kind of life happens and there's not much you can really do about it, in the way that the dude kind of, like I say, just lets life happen to him. His rug gets peed on. He owes money to people. He's got to throw the bag in the river. Like, he goes through this not really quite journey. It's just a bunch of things that kind of happen. But I can appreciate the movie for that. That was still a good movie in that way. But Megalopolis doesn't have that at all. There's nothing. This is also a remake of a movie that came out like 100 years ago. Like, there's this whole thing throughout Megalopolis about the idea of death of civilization. And that's what that reminds me of. The fact that this original movie came out 100 years ago and we're getting a remake in a way, if it's not at least just like a borrowing of the title for notoriety, because the original Megalopolis was also very notorious, and I don't remember the full details. I just wasn't bothered enough to research it before recording this, but it has some notoriety in a way that it's interesting that this movie will now overtake that. Like, I do feel like this movie has something to say about civilization. I really do, because there's too much of it happening throughout the movie. There's too many points that the movie is trying to make, but it can't for whatever reason. It has no follow through, and it doesn't know how to stick the landing on anything. Nothing feels satisfying about the movie. Nothing makes you feel good about watching it. I don't even mean as like good as a place of optimism, which is absolutely how this movie tries to end, but completely fails on that way of having an optimistic ending. It's not even the movie tries to make you feel good in that regard. No, it's that the movie doesn't make you feel good for watching it. The movie, you feel stupid. Well, maybe you don't feel stupid, but you just feel like it was a waste of time and nothing was of value, and that Ford Coppola's got your money now, and it's too late because it's already gone. You already spent it on the damn thing. Visually, the movie feels like it's trying to be an old Hollywood movie. There's certain choices and designs and styles that the movie presents that I think it wants to achieve. And to a point, it can. There's these moments where like a cement kind of wall is there, and there's like text engraved on the wall, and it's like, oh, like in post or whatever. It's not like actually live recorded. And then Lawrence Fishburne is doing like his deepest voice and is reading what's on the tablet, essentially. It feels very Ten Commandments in a way. And then there's these moments where it's filled with like this yellow glow, and it reminds me of like old film stock from the black and white days when, because of the age of the film, it would get this golden kind of hue of it, just because it would start to deteriorate and break down in age. Naturally, that's what it would look like. And there's shots in this movie that mimic that, where it's this one kind of like bold color all throughout, and it's usually meant to represent some kind of creativity. Like, this movie has a good understanding of color as well. And there's like shots of like the one character that uses blue very predominantly with a hint of red, and later you find out why. They also do this thing too where it's like this like not quite a pinhole camera, but it's like you took like a telescope over the lens, and like early in the movie, Juan Carlos Burrito and Adam Driver are having this conversation between the two of them. So they circle out the two characters and put them only on the screen with no one else, so it feels very personal and intimate. And they do that technique a couple of times throughout, and it works really well. There's things in this movie that work well visually, but with the story the way it is, it doesn't make anything worth it. Sure, it's kind of nice to look at, but I don't think that's the only thing a movie should offer, is the visual appeal of it. It should have a good story to go with. There should be a reason for me to watch what's happening on the screen. There's also this very strong and bold idea to use this Roman architecture and culture and styling throughout the movie that I really enjoy. The movie is supposed to take place in New Rome City, which is supposed to be an obvious analog of New York City, and an even more obvious analog of the entire Roman Empire. This movie is dealing with civilizations. It makes sense to talk about the Roman Empire in this way and put it in a quote-unquote modern setting. I enjoy the film for that reason, because I like ancient Rome. I think it's really interesting, and seeing a movie so boldly go for this style looked really well. But then they also ended up just dropping the ball a couple of times with some of its world building. Like, once again with Looper, I love that movie for what it says without explicitly saying it, what the civilization has sort of turned to, and you know, it's similar to Megalopolis. There's similar scenes like in Looper of how they show the city, but it's so much more on the nose and like beating you over the head with it that I'm just like. But again, it ends up going nowhere. It's not like, Adam Driver's character Caesar sees the poor among the street and goes out and gives charity to them, or uses this towards the megapolis that he wants to create. Not really. Like it's never like treated as any kind of like important moment. There's nothing like that in this movie. Or if it is, it's treated kind of frivolously and like forgotten about and just never done anything with ever again. Like, this movie needed more structure overall because it falls flat so much with storytelling. Like, it's kind of my same problem I have with 2001: A Space Odyssey, honestly, where that movie visually looks really well, but then the actual story it's telling, I'm probably gonna get flack for this. I can feel it already. For what I said about 2001. But really, you take out that whole ending section with Hal and what happens afterwards, and the movie is like falls kind of flat in my opinion. And I'm not even like an attention deficient zoomer or anything. Like, I can sit down. I sat down and watched all of Megapolis. Like, and I also saw The Godfather when I was like 12. Like, I could sit down and watch movies and like understand them. And that's also why I wanted to go see Megapolis, because The Godfather and Ford Coppola, that was one of the first like serious films I think I had watched and made me realize that, oh wow, movies can be more than just like Star Wars. Like, they can be long and have these interesting characters and stories to tell. And Megapolis just falls completely flat in that regard. Just completely on its face. Just, it's so nothing. But I don't know. I need to stop talking about it, honestly, because, like, it's kind of the only thing that's been sitting in my mind the past couple of days. But, seriously, if you're listening to this, just don't see it. I mean, if you want to form an opinion on it, like, go for it. Like, I can't stop you. But I just don't think it has anything of value to offer the audience. Like, I feel like I could watch Toy Story as, like, a CGI animated kids movie from the 90s and say, well, this movie is telling a story about friendship between two characters that wouldn't otherwise go along. There's some fucking structure in here! Like, like, it's a competent story with, like, a beginning, middle, and end. But Megapolis doesn't have anything of that. It doesn't want to offer you a good story or a good value of your time. It just wants to waste it. That's all. It was a waste of 40 years of production, and that's all it was. Because there was moments in the movie. This is my problem too, is that people want to say that it's an art project. It's not. If you're going to say that it's an art project, you have to be ready to admit to its subjective and objective values of what it presents. You have to look at the references that it's alluding to and realizing that they don't mean anything when the story means nothing. Because with every piece of art, there is a story to be told. Even if it's a framed painting, there is something there that is going on underneath. That is not in Megapolis. There is nothing of value that it wants to offer to the audience as something that is good. And, like, once again, maybe that's the whole thing, because, like, it's about, like, this dude, Caesar, who wants to make the city of Megapolis. He wants to tear down this land, and he wants to screw over the mayor of the city, who was the district attorney, who thought he killed his wife. Like, while on the surface it presents an interesting story, it then doesn't do anything with those plot points to then make it an interesting story. And that is the biggest problem I have with this movie. It's just that. It offers you nothing. Just absolutely nothing. This is like a fourth grader's like art project or something. It's just confusing. Like, I don't know what's happening at all. No, actually, see, the problem is too is that I was actually paying too close attention to the movie because I thought I was going to be rewarded. I don't want to say it like that, but like I thought there was going to be something for like me paying attention and noticing the literary references. Like it was like doing homework, honestly. That it felt like, oh, okay, sweet. I got a 7 out of 10 on my homework. That fills me with a lot of pride. Okay, well, now my mom can go happy tonight, sleep happy tonight, knowing that her son got 7 out of 10 on his homework. Ugh. So I saw Megapolis on Wednesday. That's decided how I spend my Wednesday night, was seeing that movie with a couple of friends. And honestly, if you are going to go see it, please see it with some people that you can talk to afterwards. Don't see this by yourself. That was like the main reason for me watching this with other people, was that like I didn't want to have to like process it by myself. I needed someone else to confirm that what I saw was what I saw, you know? And like that was it was a good choice to go see it with people. A movie that you could watch by yourself, though, and still enjoy the movie is Transformers 1. Because I saw it on Thursday. The Megapolis was so bad that, like, I was like, this can't be, like, the last movie that I've seen, like, ever. Like, if I died the next day, I don't want that to be the last movie I saw. So I went and saw Transformers 1. And you know what? It was a good movie. Because, much like Toy Story, it just offers a simple movie with a simple premise. And it tells the story structure perfectly fine. Like it is a good movie. Like compared to Megapolis, it's a good movie, and you know it's a kids animated film, and it's like trailers haven't been great. The first little bit maybe doesn't hook you right away, unfortunately, but I did think by the end, like I was just having fun with it, and that sounds so lame to say about a movie. Oh, that I had fun with it. But truthfully, like, it's robots shooting lasers at each other, and it's a very simple premise. I think that if you enjoyed the Mario movie that came out last year, you would probably enjoy this for similar reasons, where it doesn't insult your intelligence. It has good and accurate references to the original media. It's made by people who clearly give a damn. Like, this doesn't feel soulless or hacky or rushed or anything like that. It feels like they wanted to tell a good story and make a good movie, which is more than what I can say about Megapolis, is that it insults the audience too much and its intelligence that I don't think it was intended to be a good product at the end of the day. But with Transformers 1, you know, I want to see a Transformers 2. Like, honestly, I don't want this to be the only movie. And especially with, because Paramount did a movie last year, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, or whatever it was called. I saw that movie with a friend, and I wasn't too bothered by it. It was okay. You know, some people liked it more than me. I like the Mutant Ninja Turtles of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that movie focused a lot on the teenage part that I didn't care about at all. Like, I just wanted to see them use katanas and their sais and their bow staffs and whatnot and fight foot ninjas, and that movie wasn't really that. So it's like, fine, whatever. But this Transformers movie was definitely more up my alley and was more what I was looking for, in that it's robots and they fight each other. And I kind of like that at a certain point in the movie, too. Like, you kind of forget, like, which robots are fighting which robots. And that just feels accurate. That feels very accurate. That kind of a lot of sort of the G1 Transformers, they're just robots fighting each other. That's all you really need for good entertainment. And that's what that movie was. And genuinely, too, the references in Transformers 1, I enjoy. They're not called Optimus Prime and Megatron, but it's very obvious they do turn into that by the end of the movie, which that's a bit of a trope nowadays. But I liked it in this case because the original versions, they call themselves D and Orion. They look like the Gen 1 Transformers, like almost kind of like in a weird spot-on way. Like they even have, like, you see Bumblebee at one point, and RC is like a background character. She's not like a main character. She's in one of the backgrounds. But still, like, the models all looked really accurate to their G1 Transformers version. And then as they, I'm doing air quotes, transform throughout the movie, they get a little bit newer. They look a little bit more sleeker. And I really like that. I thought that was kind of cool to show the differences and to have that little bit of a reference. Like, that's just an attention to detail that they put in that I appreciated. And it felt important because that also does relate to the plot. The way that they look and operate, you know, as they're kind of first-generation Transformers, They don't have a lot of powers. They're not able to do a lot. They can't even necessarily transform. It's only until they find the power within themselves that they're able to transform and become greater and be more than meets the eye, yada, yada, yada. See, so the movie has that kind of a basic bare bones plot. Like, understandable that if you're an adult, you're probably not going to get much out of it. But I think even just having a good plot and a good story structure and compare it to something this was made what, in like probably 3 years, maybe, kind of at like a maximum. Like, I don't know how long the production was on Transformers 1, but with Megapolis it was 40 years. And it wasn't even technically 40 years. Like, if Megapolis took 40 years to produce, then like I have things that I've wanted to produce for like 10 years at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the actual movie didn't start filming until at least a couple of years ago, like at the minimum, because they would have had to have Adam Driver and Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman, and they all would have not to, not die. So I could see it with being a couple of years, but like it wasn't 40 years. It was 40 years, but it wasn't. That's a lie. That's malarkey. That's the thing too, is that I even think just the hype and build up about this movie, or about Megapolis specifically, not Transformers 1, is that's why it kind of falls flat, was that I don't know, maybe I was just expecting something more, and that's kind of stupid of me to think that, but I really was. I was really hoping this movie would have more to offer, but I don't know. It doesn't. There's nothing. There's nothing. If you're gonna see a movie, in the next couple of days, go see Joker 2, because that's coming out. That's coming out today, technically, I think. Actually, when I went to go see Transformers 1 in the theater last night, there was a theater that was already showing Joker like the day before it was supposed to come out. It was weird. But I'm even a little worried about that movie too, though, because I've heard some mixed things about it. I'd never know how accurate it ever is, but I've heard a couple little things, and I liked the first Joker movie. The first one was good. Like, yeah, it was good. I don't know. I enjoyed it as a story. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get some like weird looks when people say I like the Joker movie. But I did. It was a good movie. I'm a big Batman fan, which is the main thing that I kind of liked about it. I like the Joker as a character, and just his sort of multiple backstory personality is very interesting, and leaves you to a lot of interpretation and adaptation with his character. So I was interesting to see what you could get out of a solo Joker film. And the fact that they're doing this sequel with Lady Gaga, and it's supposed to be a musical, like, I've heard some people say that the musical parts aren't that good, which is funny because I don't normally like musicals anyways. And apparently people are walking out of theaters, but like I never know how true that is. Like, I don't know if anybody walked out of Megapolis, and I think if there's any movie that you could have probably walked out of and not regretted and lost anything, it would have been Megapolis. So if people are walking out of Joker 2, man, I feel like I just need to see it just once again, because just to see what the hell people are talking about. Like, that was the main reason why I saw Megapolis too, is I was just like, well, I need to have an opinion. I can't let like other people decide this for me. I need to know. I have to know. Anyways, what else is coming? There's a bunch of movies coming out this month that I want to see. There's Joker 2. I want to see The Wild Robot as well. That wasn't this month, but I'm probably going to go try and see it this month, just in general. And what else is we got? There's Venom 3 is coming out this month. I'm probably going to go see Venom 3, just because I like the first two Venom movies. The first Venom movie is a legitimately good, like, comic book Venom movie that, like, I don't know. I never thought you could do a Venom movie without Spider-Man, and yet somehow they did it. And you know what? It's really not that bad. Like, I think I kind of understand what it's trying to be. I realized that at a certain point it was just about a giant goo monster and this, like, average guy that just kind of need to work together. There's a lot of stuff that I think they did well in that first, like, Venom movie too. But I could also understand people that just aren't into it. And, like, same thing with, like, the sequel. Like, I was just kind of happy to see Carnage on screen with the second one. Like, it was just kind of crazy that, like, it was no longer these weird, like, Photoshop edits that just get posted online anymore. I was like, no, it's actually Carnage. He's actually on screen. It's actually Woody Harrelson in a better wig than when it was in the first movie. Like, it was just kind of, it was good. I liked it, and I liked how they did Carnage and Cletus's relationship in contrast to Eddie and Venom's relationship in that movie. I thought it worked well. It was pretty good. I liked it, and so I'm kind of excited to see what the third one is going to be. If it's going to be like the last in a trilogy, I'll be okay with that. Like, I really only think you can get about like 3 movies out of an idea before you kind of have to hang up. Like, they only ever did 3 Back to the Future movies, you know? And that movie's about time travel. That's a movie like Terminator, where you could just keep on making like movie after movie. But I feel like Terminator kind of proves my point that really by like the third one, you know, you're kind of running a little dry. You know, there's not a lot of like things left over. You kind of did it at that point. Or like what? Like even like Toy Story 3. Like, okay, so Andy has the toys. He grows up with the toys. We see that in the second movie that he still really cares about them. So it makes sense in a third movie to have him go off in college and give those possessions up. It makes sense. And then they make a fourth one, and now they're planning a fifth one. And I'm really disappointed that Lightyear wasn't as good as it was, honestly, because I think Buzz Lightyear is cool. I always thought it was like a cool toy as a kid. And I was like, if you could make like a decent movie out of it, that'd be nice. You know, a science fiction animated movie. It could work. It's not an awful idea. But no, it's just like, I don't know, man. If anything, whenever I see stuff not doing well, it just makes me want to make my own stuff. Like, I just want to try. I want to know what the process is and how it is that things can get to where they are when it comes to a production, when it comes to a movie or a TV show or anything. I find that whole process fascinating because I don't quite get it. You're not going to learn it all, but you do learn. You try to figure things out, and that's the part that I really enjoy. And that's what I enjoy about watching media. And I don't want to say consuming, because I feel like that's too like bland of a point to say that I just consume things. But to a degree, I interpret. Is that maybe a better word? Maybe not even interpret. Like identify, recollect. I don't know. I find creativity interesting, and I want to be a part of that process because I do find it to be an interesting process. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I really don't. I really try. I feel like that's like, you know, as Yoda once said, do or do not. There is no try. So I do my best to make the best that I can. And that's part and parcel with this podcast, you know? Just trying to make the best thing you can for the most amount of people to enjoy. So that way you can hopefully make, you know, just the unbearable curse of being alive in this capitalist hellscape a little bit more bearable, honestly. You know, like, I think that's my main motivation to do anything. It's just like, man, this, like, sucks. This just, it all kind of sucks right now. We don't know when things are going to get better. So if we can even just find just little chunks and moments of brevity and just humor in our day-to-day, that's the only way we're going to ever get better. You know, it's just if we find those moments. I've been really trying to practice gratitude lately because it's something I've always kind of struggled with, and I don't know why. I really can't place why. This idea of gratitude is something that I'm still kind of learning. I had this like moment the other day where I was just like walking. I was walking somewhere and I was upset because I had to walk further than I thought I needed to. Like, I had this expectation and this idea placed in my head of what I thought my day was going to be, and that was disrupted. And I was upset that I had to go walk, I don't know, like an extra, 15 to 20 minutes to get to where I actually needed to be. It wasn't that bad. It was okay. I've walked it before, but I was still upset about it. And then I realized that I'm living in an opportunity where I can spend the time and take the time to go and walk and spend the extra minutes to go and walk to where I need to go. And that it's a different life. I wouldn't have that same opportunity. I would have had to deal with the fact that I couldn't make it for whatever reason, or maybe it was actually somewhere that was a 30-minute drive away, so that becomes like a 1-hour transit bus ride away, which means I'm adding even more onto the day. But that wasn't what my day was. And that was the gratitude that I needed to practice for that day was that everything else was probably going to go my way, and that this one hiccup really didn't mean anything, because I am grateful enough to live in a place. I don't quite live in a 15-minute city. I would love to. I would love to live in a place where everything is so accessible. And realistically, I'm on like the edge of like a suburb. Like where I live is like right next to basically what's the main shopping area. And then the shopping area is in front of me. The entire behind of me is like all housing and whatnot. So I'm living on that edge of that. I can walk somewhere, and it's not going to be an hour walk for me to get there, because I'm living in the middle of all this housing and I can't do anything. I can go and walk somewhere, and I have, I'm not like debilitated in any way. I have my 2 legs that work. They work fine for the most part. I do a lot of walking too. Like just as a kid, I used to have to walk to school all the time. So like I'm so used to like walking, and I don't have any major health issues. And I got some money in my pocket, that list package that I need to pick up that I thought I paid for. Well, no, I gotta spend a little bit more on the taxes and customs and whatnot. But that I have the money in my bank account, and that I'm able to live in a place like we do here in the lower mainland that has fresh drinking water out of the tap. I still filter it anyways because I think it tastes a little better, but I can still drink the water that comes out of the taps. And it's just those little gratitude moments that I'm finding myself in more and more that I need to try and reflect on, I think. And I think, yeah, I don't know why I'm talking about this. I guess maybe it's just because it's a podcast and I'm by myself, so this is just where the conversation goes. But I hope it was at least interesting to all of you that were listening. And we're gonna cut it here. I want to thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Second Year Run Podcast. And unfortunately, there was no guest. It was just me today on the show. But I hope you have a good rest of the day, wherever that may be.